Hello everyone, and welcome back to some Gem Miner Tower Defense. There's been a couple of big updates, including an entirely new class. I haven't played around with it too much, I'm kind of just addicted to the mana pick. So that's what we're going to be going with again today. We're going to be going the mana pick, and we're running the Duplicator quest this time. The Duplicator quest is not very good on Reforged, because you don't get to merge as often. But we're going to be doing something a little bit fancy in order to merge as much as possible, which will make more sense once we get into the run. A couple other things that they added that's really nice is you can view augments and gems from the main menu now, which you couldn't do before. Helps a lot with theory crafting builds. And then another major update is that you can have gem loadouts now. You can select anywhere from 5 to 10 on Reforged, and then these are the only 5 gems that will show up at the start of the run. Then once we get later into the run, there will be an option to turn back on the other gems. So if you want really good starting gems, you can get those a lot more easily now. And then, like, say for example, I can't get Jade or Shadow Shard right now, but I would be able to turn those back on later if I wanted them. So in order to make this build work, I need to go and grind out a very specific first upgrade. So I'm going to go do runs until I get that, and then I'll see you guys there. Alright, I am back. The reason why I had to jump cut is because I needed to specifically get Double Dawn, and nothing else here, so I've actually been getting lucky with it, and getting it every run so far. But sometimes you just don't get it. Double Dawn is going to make it where on wave start, all effects will trigger twice that are considered on wave start. That was a bad way to explain that, by the way. But basically, all wave start effects will trigger twice. Right now, why that matters is that we have Pyrite. On wave start, gain a charge, and then at 5 charges, it gains an enchant, which is a powerful buff. And then once it has that enchant, it will start stacking it. The other reason we want Double Dawn is something that... Oh, I should have gotten Aquamarine before the wave started, but that's okay. The other reason is something that I just don't have the correct gem for. I still don't have a level. I need a level 2 Amethyst, but I keep getting the wrong levels. I can start picking up some level 1 amethysts, because I will have a way to level them up pretty soon. Aquamarine was also changed this patch, so it's a little bit better, but I'll go back to that in a second. Another new thing of this update is at Wave 8, you get core augments. These are always the same 3. I don't know if they'll be updated or not, but right now it's really nice to have just the guaranteed choice. If you're someone that had the complaint last time that you can't move gems, you get that ability consistently really early on now, which is nice. Or you can downgrade a gem to give it more fire rate. You can get the level back anyways, and sometimes leveling down a gem is a good thing if you want a specific upgrade for that gem, so it's not a bad thing to be able to downgrade it. Or the one that I've been really enjoying is Synthesizer. You can combine 2 starter gems in order to increase their level. You'll downgrade one of the gems, but you'll be able to upgrade the other one. So that's what we're going to take. Synthesizer also gives a range buff every time you do this, so it's interesting with some stuff like Bloodstone. Like, if you could get up to a level 4 Ruby with using all merges from level 1, you could get a high-range Bloodstone, which Bloodstone would normally only have a very small range. So there's some interesting stuff you can do with the Synthesizer. I really like it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take another level 1 Amethyst, and then we're going to combine them into level 2, and that's going to let me get the Moonstone probably after this round. What the Moonstone is going to do is make a new gem every wave, And then this is also considered an on-wave start effect, so it will get affected by Double Dawn. Then once I get 3 of those same gems, it's going to allow me to merge them together into one stronger gem. The Moonstone gems themselves are very weak. I'm not going to take this Moonstone, by the way, because it just doesn't have... It doesn't have good surface area to be able to put down a lot of them, especially because this Moonstone's already here. I'm going to go with this one here and then merge it again. So you can see now that in just a single wave it places 2, and then I need to get up to 3 of them to merge them. The gems you get out of the Moonstones are very weak, even when upgraded. They're mostly about having just a very high quantity of gems that will also apply slowing. I really don't think they're very good overall, but I can use them for the purpose of Duplicator Quest. Duplicator Quest makes it where every 5 merges I do, I get another stack of the next augment that I take, and that can stack as well. So we didn't get it yet, but we'll have it next time. I did not mean to reroll that. That's fine though, because actually I really want Triggerstone in this build. Every 25 gem attacks grant a buff to a random gem until the end of the wave. And then since we're just going to have such a huge mass of gems by the end of things, that is going to allow that quantity to turn into some kind of quality at least. Oh, there's another Moonstone there. I might even just like start digging this way now and give the Moonstone full range of where it can spawn, because the Moonstone can only spawn within one range of itself. So one problem you run into, especially with Triggerstone, is they will eventually get backed up, especially as you have a lot of them. Let me see. That's actually just... If I start digging like this way, though, it's wasting a lot. So I think what I'll do is... It's not very efficient to do this at all, but I'll place a couple blocks there. And then I think I will... Grabbing another Moonstone this close is not worth it really either. But what I can do here is grab a Shalkedny. The Shalkedny is going to buff all the Moonstones around here, and then help with Triggerstone. So now that I've got 2 Moonstones going, I can get more than one merge per wave. And then if we keep stacking up more and more Moonstones, it'll just get better and better. This is something I think this build will be a lot better once we get 40 waves instead of 20. Because right now, by the time you really start being able to stack them up too heavily... Ooh. Iolite would be good here, but it's kind of not in the right range. I'll keep it in case we get like a Moonstone over here too. But anyways, yeah, this build is more of a slow burn, where the farther you get into the run, the better it gets. This build is not good, by the way. I don't remember if I said that or not yet, but I'm doing this on difficulty 0, because if you try to do this in high difficulty, you just don't have the damage early on. It's either like you don't have the damage early, or you have to sacrifice getting Moonstones as early, so then you don't have your scaling as fast. It just... Higher difficulties are fun to climb. Oh. Huh. Okay. Higher difficulties are fun to climb, but they get very samey feeling right now, since there's not a whole lot of gem variety, and higher difficulties are just about seeing how fast you can scale, pretty much. You have to rely very heavily on early game gems that are not only strong, but can scale up. But anyways, here's how our Pyrite's doing, by the way. I guess it ended up getting Farsight, which means it's just going to get a ridiculous amount of range. I don't actually like that too much. I would much rather it have something like Ornate, which would let it get damage every time it attacks. Range is not that useful in this game, I don't think. Let me see what I probably need to grab at least one Shalkedny here, just to make sure this Pyrite starts scaling up. I should have done that long ago, but I don't know. Like I mentioned before, it's kind of difficult because you need to get the Moonstones fast enough to get them scaling, but then you also need something for damage to actually carry to you. I don't really have good selections here. I think I'll just kind of take this because it has good range and damage and it's out of the way of this Moonstone. So I forgot to mention it, but we hit another new mechanic, which is the fact that once you reach a certain wave, you will get the option to take a augment that will drastically increase the pacing of the game. So the problem was that, like, at wave 10 or 15 even, you're usually done with your main mazing, and then it just gets kind of tedious to place down gems one by one. So what they have right now is that your max actions get set to 2, but you reveal much more blocks when mining or placing blocks. That is the only one right now, but they are planning on adding others. And I believe you will always have the option to skip that as well. So if you do want to focus on making a really long maze, it's not something that is going to be forced onto you. Ooh, this is actually perfect. We got Buff Echo. Power Circle is not that good, by the way. The percentage that gets increased based on, like, the AoE radius of most things is too low right now to really benefit from it a whole lot. Stuff like, what's it called? Stuff like Bloodstones benefit a little bit more, but Bloodstones have really small AoE range as well, so it's hard to make use of Power Circle right now. I think it definitely needs a buff. Even with having it, like, stacked to, like, 5, there wasn't that much of a noticeable difference on the Moonstones. But I guess that also could have been due to the fact that Moonstones themselves are just very, very weak. They're more for slowing. But anyways, Buff Echo's ridiculous here, because Buff Echo makes it where anytime something gets a temporary buff, it turns into, or they get a permanent buff. It's lower than, like, the actual buff that they're getting from Triggerstone, but Triggerstone is going to be activating very, very often, and then anytime it activates, they're going to get three stacks of the Buff Echo, which is going to be crazy. That is probably best in slot if you get the Triggerstone and Buff Echo. At this point, I still do have... let's see. I still have one more chance to get a relic right before the boss fight. So I guess if I want to keep going all out for Moonstone build, that's what I need to do. I might want to pick up the Colinian here as well. Or I guess I could just pick up another Shalkedny. How about you? Oh, you're doing pretty good. That's how you're doing. Still, I really don't think the range is worth it at all. Even though we have all this stuff to slow, it's kind of the perfect opportunity for it. But weirdly enough, range in tower defense is usually one of the better stats, but it does not feel that useful here, especially compared to your other options. It feels like here, damage is kind of just damage, and especially stacking stats, like stacking damage, is kind of king, especially once I just wasted pretty much my entire turn there. Oops. I was on the wrong setting, so it didn't... I wanted to mine a couple times, but that's okay. I don't think it's gonna matter too much at this point. But yeah, with the same, like, range that it has, if it had a stack, or if it had a buff where it was, like, stacking damage every time it attacked, it would end up dealing way more damage just before anything could get past it, rather than it dealing low damage, but it can hit the whole screen. And part of that is because making really big mazes is kind of de-incentivized in this, oddly enough. Again, as a tower defense, usually longer mazes are better. But in this, it's more about revealing gems. Especially when it comes to Reforged mode. So that's something I should explain that I found out I found out after the last video. So the way that it works in terms of how much income you get right here is that you do get some income for killing enemies in the wave. Even if the enemies escape, you still get that money, as far as I remember. And then, if I understood correctly, basically how it works is that I'll select one gem, like I'll select a gem here, and then it's going to basically automatically sell every other gem out here. The gems have a value based on, like, their level and stuff like that. So there, you can see it just kind of sells all the other gems. Which means that when I do high difficulty gameplay of this, a lot of the times, instead of mazing, I'm just putting down blocks to reveal the most possible things. That way I have the highest possible income, and then I can get my gems merged as early as possible. So you can see, like, now, for example, my income just skyrocketed on those couple of rounds where I did pretty much nothing but... place blocks out in the open, where I was getting the most out of them. I don't think that applies nearly as much once you have the Architect Oath unlocked, but it makes a huge difference in the early game. I don't know what I want to do with this money, actually. If I had more diamonds, I would maybe get a Kalinian. Ah, whatever. We'll get this anyways. Kalinian's an interesting thing, and I might do something with Kalinian and Synthesizer. Kalinian makes it where whenever this gem fires, any diamonds that I have will also fire. So I was thinking grab a Kalinian and then grab a really high-level diamond with Synthesizer. Because diamonds gain quite a lot of base damage when you level them up. It'll get more range as well from Synthesizer, so... Kalinian might be kind of overkill, but Kalinian also helps because it'll essentially increase the attack speed of the diamond, based on how fast the Kalenian attacks. Egg Celebrate would be so good with the buff echo and Triggerstone setup that I have, but unfortunately it is considered a unique, and uniques do not get doubled by duplicator, so it'd be a huge waste to take it right now. Actually, so Aquamarine got a new buff where on wave end it gains fire rate for each adjacent water block. Putting an Aquamarine on its own and having it with Egg Celebrate could be pretty good. Because you're getting, let's see, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're getting 8% attack speed per round, and then you're getting 8 chances for plus 10 damage. That is definitely an idea I need to try out. I could get Fury Plus here, or the... No, that would overwrite. So with enchants, it's really important to remember you can only have 1 enchant per gem. So if I got it now, it would overwrite Farsight. What else could I put? I guess I could put Fury Plus on the Kalenian. Not a terrible idea. I don't see myself... I think, like, high roll, I would roll into slowing here. But I think let's just take what we have. I don't think I'm gonna lose or win the run based on, like, what I take here. I think the run's already set in stone, but I might as well show off something that's already there rather than gambling. Now, I don't think it matters too much what I take here either, so... Let's slow this back down to, like, 2 times, since it's the final wave. Now, you can see that the Kalenian should be putting in pretty big work here, making the... Oh, I guess I have 2 diamonds instead of just 1. Yeah, every time it attacks, it forces these to attack. And then you can see, since I just have such a huge mass of Moonstone replicas now, they're pretty good at keeping the enemy slowed down, because slows do stack. Slows did get nerfed, unfortunately, so you can see now it just keeps diminishing more and more over time. 8.2 is not too bad. Especially for, like, going for more of a mean build like this, where I just have almost all quantity, and my snacking gem didn't really get anything that useful. Though Buff Echo did probably... Yeah, Buff Echo put in a lot of work here. A lot of these gems have echoes on them. That's actually pretty cool to see. Because usually... I hope they change this soon. I would like to be able to see how many times Triggerstone activated per wave, and total even. But it looks like... Wow, really? Some of the Moonstones actually did as much damage as the Kalenian. And then... this kind of goes to show you... This Pyrite had, like, everything stacking on it, except for damage, but it had a lot of fire rate, it had range to attack this whole time, and it still got outdamaged by stuff with just, like, kind of random buffs. It had some damage, but it had the same damage buffs from Buff Echo that Pyrite had, and then it probably had less attack speed too. But anyways, that's enough of me going on for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.